I think a big part of it had to do with the pickup artist world. That created a lot of anxiety around women. Yeah. And then that fed into the bedroom. And then my own insecurities with women would show up, and I wanted to be really good in the bedroom. And so then that was what created all this anxiety, was because I needed to prove that I was worthy of their love. I needed to prove that I was good enough. And then by making a woman orgasm or like being great in the bedroom, then I could show that I am a strong man and that I deserve her. And then naturally that creates this performance anxiety, because now I'm not actually having sex with her. I'm doing sex to her in order to get a result, which is the orgasm, which then makes me feel a certain way, which is now I feel confident, now I feel validated, now I feel like a man.
I thought of the word self-worth right away.
Yeah. So yeah, self-worth was, it's a big part of it. Yeah. So that I would say that when it comes to sexual dysfunction, the majority of the issue, the majority of it is self-worth. It's about seeking validation from the woman, from an external source. So if you can actually target and derive that self-worth from within yourself and resolve any traumas that have maybe occurred in the past, like maybe a partner was really critical of you, or she cheated on you, or something like that, that can create this internal belief system where you're trying to fuck in order to validate your existence and then get approval and then get a sense of power. But if you can derive that internally and resolve that internally, then your performance anxiety will start to fade away naturally.
I just want to say I really appreciate how open you are, how honest you are, and vulnerable you are to bring this up, because I think it helps a lot of men listening to this to, it sounds like going through quite the journey to understand you have an issue and to address that issue and to go through the steps to deal with that issue and see everything else around it, to come out the other end with enough knowledge to help other men. Where I'm going to make this assumption is a lot of men are stuck way back there where you were, and they're going to continue going on with that because they don't know how to address it. There's embarrassment with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of embarrassment, there's shame, there's guilt, and there's also a lot of anger and resentment towards women.
Where does that come from?
I need to have sex with you and make, like, if I don't perform well, you're going to talk shit about me to your girlfriends, and now I'm not going to get the love and the approval that I want and that I need, and then that makes me feel sad and hurt, but then I don't want to feel those feelings, so instead I get mad. So for a lot of men, like, it's easier for us to feel anger than it is for us to feel sadness. Because sadness and guilt, those are vulnerable feelings, and we don't want to feel those things. So instead we go to anger, which is, it's higher up on the emotional, energetic chain. And I know that might sound a little woo-woo, but anger is an activating emotion. So it actually empowers you. It does create power. So if I'm feeling low and sort of sad and then I can activate that anger, and then it allows me to feel a bit more power.
I'm hearing the word feeling come up a lot, and you always have to feel the situation. So what if, this is probably common, what if, I was going to say, what if we don't want to feel, but what if we don't know how to feel? What if we can't?
Yeah.
I'm assuming we can feel, but we're ignoring it because it's not something, like, even like I said to you, I go back to the conversation I had with you when we were sitting at that house. I was you talked so easily that day about what you're talking about now, and part of me, I went really quiet. I think you talked for about 20 minutes. I just listened and listened and listened, and I was like, I felt so comfortable talking to you. And even though we were there on a guy's trip, my whole interest the entire time was talking more about picking your brain about.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Because it was I'd been in the situation of vulnerability of admitting my mistakes and what I had kind of gone through, and it kind of put me in a place. And I talked to a friend the other day, and her and I were talking, and we got in a discussion, and we were able to resolve something, but it was recovery language, as she put it. I was talking to her because I had recovered from something, and she had as well. And the way her and I were communicating, we're two people that have gone through recovery and come out the other end. Mm-hmm. And when I was talking to you, I kind of felt, oh, this is kind of like a brother to me. He's actually gone through something. And I felt you made me feel comfortable to talk to you. And I was talking about my feelings. So, but I've gone through it, so I understand my feelings. But getting back to the question is it fair to say it's not, what if we can't feel it? Is it, what if we don't want to feel or we don't want to acknowledge it?
Yeah, I see that, and I like the segue, and I think that that's sort of an offshoot, because the way to start feeling, so I've definitely run into men, and they're like, yeah, I don't really feel that much. Or they can feel one emotion, or like, let's say they can feel anger, but they can't feel any other emotions. So there's a few ways, I guess I guess I just have one thought around, like, do you think that we may have opened up a loop around the resentment towards women? Do you want to close that and then go to that? Or do you just want to go this way? Or do you, I just want to check in with you.
Go away, every way you
Wherever?
want, brother.
Okay, cool. So for the resentment piece towards women, so I'm going to go back to that, and then I'll answer your question about how to feel, if you don't mind. So yeah, I had resented a lot of women because I was also feeling really lonely, and I needed their approval in order to feel good. So I put the responsibility on women for my validation as a man. So that's what created this anger and this resentment. And I hated the fact that I wanted to sleep with women and that I wanted women because I'm heterosexual. But yeah, I hated that fact. So then I got mad at them, and then I resented them. But then that also fed into me not being able to get laid, because I would come in to meet women with a chip on my shoulder.
Well, can you go back and say that line again, the resentment part? You were heterosexual, but you were upset at them.
Well, I don't know exactly what I said. I said, so I'm heterosexual, so I want to have sex with women.
Yeah.
But I resented the fact that I needed them for the feeling of power and
Validation,
and validation. Okay. Yeah. Because I was putting it on them. But then that validation seeking, which created some resentment and fear, a lot of fear. So, and I resented the fact that I was scared of them. I resented that fact too. So I was scared, I was resentful, and I was angry, which then fed into it. So whenever I would meet a woman, I was so caught up in my fear and my resentment and my anger that I would create this little chip on my shoulder. And then the good women would feel that from me and then say, I don't want anything to do with this guy. He's kind of angry. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's a little weird in that regard. So I ended up turning away the women who would actually treat me really well. And then I would attract the women who kind of liked that vibe of a guy with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, who are also dealing with their own anger and their own chips and their own fears. But then those women were the women that would validate my belief that women were mean, women would treat me poorly, I couldn't trust them, and that I was unworthy.
So the question was about feeling. So
yes,
that's how you feel. But sorry.
Yeah. So I just wanted to sort of close up that loop around the resentment piece around women. So tying that up real quick. Once I realized that I was the source and that I was carrying that anger and that resentment and I was creating those results because I had that filter about women. And even though the filter is right, it's only a small filter and a small portion of the truth. The other parts of the truth is that there are women who are scared and that there are women who are beautiful and amazing and nurturing and loving and amazing. So once I realized that, I was able to shift my perspective, which then created more opportunities to meet women who would actually be much more nurturing and supportive. And then who were a better fit for me, so then I didn't need their validation. And then so that's closing up that loop, and now it comes down to the loop of what was I feeling. Yeah.